It's report card time. Hey school kids, don't worry, this is not for you. This is for the gardeners in your life. Because today I am grading myself on my containers for 2024, and I am not gonna grade on a curve. Hey there, I'm Erin, the Impatient Gardener. I garden here in southeastern Wisconsin, zone 5B, 6A, and today we're looking at containers. We're gonna start right here with two of the pots on the deck. These pots are both go up a post. So I always plant some sort of vine in them that will crawl up the vine. And this one is in a little bit more shade than the other one, so I'll show you the other one too, although actually this year more than other years, they grew very similarly. So we start here, I had purple bell vine in here, Rhodochiton atrosanguinea, which I just like to say, grew this from seed. It worked well for me this year from seed, doesn't always. And this is just, I mean, listen, if you don't love this plant, then we have to talk about things because it's just amazing. Then I have cast iron plant in here. This is Tokyo Stars. Cast iron plant, a little bit of diamond frost euphorbia, which is supposed to sort of reference the speckles on the cast iron plant. Corallina super bells. This is lemon tiger, lemon zebra, yellow zebra. It says sweet potato vine, but it's not the same. It's not an Ipomea, it's something else. As a trailer in here, although I noticed that it's been thinking about climbing, so make a note of that. And then there is this hydrangea bloom, does not belong to this. There is a wire vine in here as well. We are starting off on a really good note here because I am giving myself an A, maybe even an A+. I think A+ for these. These are the best containers I've ever had on the deck in all the years. I think it's been 10 or 11 years now that I've been doing containers on the deck. This one was by far the most successful. Absolutely love it. You'll see when we go over to the other one that the purple bell vine is actually doing better over here in this one that's in a little bit less sun. And here's the one that's in more sun. This was actually one cast iron plant that I divided in two to put in these two containers. You can see that it's getting, this one's a little crispy in some spots, so we're pushing it on the sun for that. And same with the purple bell vine. We have a few little spots that don't look so good on that. Everything else is looking very, very good here. I have pruned the vine a couple of times, and you can see that the wire vine is quite a bit more vigorous over here. Now this is a new container on the deck this year, but I've really liked having it here. It's just a nice little corner here, and I wanted something really dramatic here, and that's where this datura came in. This datura, I bought this, it was probably 18 inches tall or so when I bought it at the nursery, and you can see it has grown incredibly. It actually, when I was out of town at the beginning of August, it actually completely flopped over, so I stood it up and staked it. So I made a mental note about that. Now this is purple flowers, but because I have not been deadheading it really at all, I've been allowing it to create seed pods because the seed pods I think are so cool on this plant. There are basically very few flowers anymore on it. It's also a complete baby to begin with. It needs water now almost twice a day to be happy because of course it grew quite a lot, and these things, the second they don't get exactly perfect water, they just get all floppy, but they come back within like 15 minutes. So this one was combined with, again, the same super bells, that's Corallina, which I had cut back. It was really spent. So I had cut back, and what you see here is a little bit of rebloom. It hasn't been a great rebloom. And guacamole plectranthus, I mean, that plant gets an A+ on its own. It's the first time I've grown it. What an amazing plant. Sometimes it doesn't have as nice a color as it has in here, and I think that's because it's a little shaded on the bottom, so I think it's kept really nice color. And then there was just your basic, creeping Jenny, Lysimachia in there. Because the internet will abuse me if I don't say this every time I show this plant, every part of datura is poisonous. So I'm gonna give this plant a B. There were parts of this season, so I'm going to give this container a B. There were parts of this season where it was absolutely phenomenal. I think it's lost a little bit longevity-wise, so that's why it's not at the A range. So this is the Trough planter by the garage door. Some of this was pretty similar to what I've done in the past. Primarily this Fats Hedera, I like to say Fats Shadera because it's more fun, Annual Star, which I overwintered inside last year, and it has grown so much. I bet you it has tripled in size, and I had cut it back pretty far last year to bring it in. What an amazing plant. Just absolutely beautiful and really holds this container together. A couple of things that happened with this container. One, this mahogany sweet potato vine, which I grew last year, this year went nuts and just grew huge. So I was pruning on it quite a lot. The begonias, I think, got a little bit, I don't know, the begonias just weren't super happy at any point in this container this year. Maybe they didn't have enough room to actually grow. I did find myself cutting back the plectranthus, and this Stromanthe triloba here never really did anything. So while I think it's pretty, I think if we just needed some more floral in here, I just think we were a little, you know, we've got obviously a ton of beautiful foliage here. Probably could have gone without the plectranthus in here, and maybe that would have been better, but I needed some more flowers in this one. So this container, unfortunately, gets a C, maybe a B minus. The Fats Hedera gets an A plus. I think this is one of the most fun containers I did this year. Now, in the middle here, we've got Ruby Ruffles Patio Peach, which came as a very small plant. It's still a pretty small plant. Certainly the intention is to overwinter this Patio Peach in this pot in the garage. And, you know, just, I mean, I think this container would have been amazing if this had been like a big mature plant. So it's because it's a little bit oddly sized. But what we have going on here in the bottom is maybe one of my more favorite things that I've done in a container lately. So we had a few begonias in here. Now, unfortunately, I can't tell you what begonia this is because I did not save the tag, and I just picked it up at a nursery. I'm not even sure if it had a tag, to be honest. I was kind of late in picking it up. So some begonias in here. The one back here, you know, really, this one didn't do as well. Same thing, I just had a little bit of an issue with begonias this year for some reason. And then we have wire vine on the bottom. Wire vine quickly becoming one of my favorite things to add to a container. Well, it has been for a while, but this year I leaned heavily into wire vine, and I'm really happy with it. And then because I thought we needed something else, I went and I dug up some Carex Blue Zinger from the shade garden over there, and that, I love the way that looks in here. So I'm definitely making a mental note that Carex Blue Zinger is a real winner in a container. By the way, just make note, it can be a little aggressive, borderline exceptionally aggressive in some places. So just check it out how it grows in your area before you go sticking it in the ground. So I'm going to give this container a B. This is the teak trough planter right by the back steps here. And I think this probably was one of the cooler planters that I did this year when it was first planted. I don't think it aged very well. A couple of things in here. So first of all, this is Lamandra Platinum Beauty in here. And I thought this would grow much more than it did. The Lamandra did not grow as much as it has for me in the past this year. I think it's because we were kind of cool, but I would say that probably it didn't have a lot of room to grow in here. Next thing is I had some Gara in there, and the Gara just never seems to rebloom for me. I don't know, so we've just basically had sticks there. In the front, we had this very cool new Kufia from Proven Winners, which was really neat, but it got really straggly looking mid-season, and I cut it back, and I have to say, it never really recovered for me. I mean, it still looks pretty raggy to me. So while I loved that initially, I don't feel like it was the right plant to be like the star of the show for the whole season. And I think it's quite safe to say that we have way too much Plectranthus Silver Shield in here. I don't remember how many of those I put in here, but whatever it was, divide it by half at least. I have been pruning this and pruning this and pruning this, and this stuff just has been unbelievably productive. I love the plant. It's just never been quite as aggressive for me before. So, and in fact, I put a little piece of driftwood in the front of this container, which you might remember from when we planted it. You can't see that at all. Some of the Kent Beauty, this is Kent Beauty oregano here. That is looking pretty good, although sometimes that gets like these little dead bits in it. This is Bellissima ornamental oregano, which is very nice. It's smaller. It's kind of like a mini Kent Beauty. Took longer to bloom, lasted much better. Quite love it. It just took a really long time to get going. And there are strawberries in here, but I haven't picked a single one yet. So really good intentions here. Probably a situation where I way overstuffed it. Certainly too much Plectranthus. And maybe this Kufia just wasn't the right spot for that plant. So this container, sadly, gets a C-. All right, so now we are at the window box. Now this is my new larger window box. And boy, let me tell you, I took advantage of stuffing this thing with plants. I don't think there are too many plants in here, by the way. I'm happy with the number of plants that are in here. And let's just take a look at what some of them are. So the big stripy plant in the back there is Dinella, which I ordered online. Love it. I love it in the back there. I mean, granted, it's very hard to see some of it, but I think it's great for a back. Really nice texture in there. Quite happy with that plant in it. I do have some, it's not unplugged. What is this sedum? I think this is Evolution Salvia. It was a blue salvia I found at the hardware store that I popped in there because I felt like we needed more in the back. Purple, of course, is Secretia Purple Heart, which I think looks excellent in here. The vines growing up the back, and we're going to talk more about those, but that is Fiona Sunrise Jasmine, which are not hardy here, and I ordered them, and they came as kind of small plants, so they are really supposed to be meant to grow as a perennial. And now they look great. Now they're doing exactly what they wanted. And this planter would be boring if it weren't for the great chartreuse that crawls up and falls down a little bit over here in the corner. A total winner, I'm going to try to overwinter those for sure. I'd actually love to use those again. Just took a little while to get going. Again, because I was pushing a perennial into be an annual, basically. We also have Superbena Peachy Keen, which I have put in this planter probably 4 million times in my life because I really love it. Then I also put Coralina in here as well. So Coralina played a big role here. And when these two were both really blooming together, that combination of Coralina and Superbena Peachy Keen were excellent. This is Evolvus, blew my mind. This is Scaevola, I forget which one it is, but it's one of the Proven Winners ones. Oh, we've got some Helichrysum. You can just kind of see it popping out here. Helichrysum Lemon Lime. That's kind of intermingled in there, which is how I like it. And in the middle, you can't even tell that they're there, are a couple of bromeliads that I brought home from Florida. Generally speaking, I love the color scheme here. There's a lot of good things in here. I think the Scaevola might be I mean, I've been pruning at the Scaevola quite a bit. I think maybe that got a little bit overrun. I think the big thing that I'm noticing here is, you guys know that I'm a huge, I really like good texture in pots. And I feel like, even though I tried to really mix it up with the textures, we ended up with too many fine textures. All told, though, I still think it's pretty good. I still think, window boxes do tend to go sideways on you towards the end of the season, as this one has a little bit, despite a bit of pruning on it. So, all told, I'm generally pretty happy with this. This is one of the ones that I think it held together longer than usual, and I'm happy with a lot of it. Not happy totally with it. So the window box this year gets a B. Now we move on to the 2 driveway containers. In the past, I have grown in these 2 containers. So first I tried roses for a couple of years. That was a disaster. Then I switched to trees. For 2 years, I grew pagoda dogwoods in these. And then for 2 years, I grew multi-stem birches in these pots. This year, I went to, actually it was the big box store, and picked up 2 Golden Curls willows. By the way, I should add, this was 100% inspired by a container that I saw when I was in Philadelphia last year at a garden called, I think, Owl's Head. It's one of those things that stuck in my head. And so full credit to the inspiration place for this. Anyway, so golden curls, willow, and then I just did, I think this sun patience is just deep rose, and just the lime helichrysum, lemon lime helichrysum in there. Oh, and there is some wire vine in this one, some wire vine tucked in on the sides as well here. So I picked up the last two of the golden curls that were available at that store, and this one was a fair bit bigger than the other one. So this one is a little bit lopsided, I would say. It's not as big as the other one, and it's a little bit lopsided, but still the same effect on it. One of the things I really like is when this helichrysum kind of weaves its way through other plants that it's planted with, which it has in this case mostly. So that's a big plus as far as I'm concerned. So first off, I'm just going to say that although the golden curls requires a lot of water. I mean, these were planters that I had to water basically every day from the get-go, and I'm still watering them every day, which there's no other container except for the datura that I've been watering every day. So a little bit of a water hog, as you would expect from a willow. But first, I'm just going to say this golden curls, I think, makes an amazing thriller feature plant, focal point plant for a container. A, it was inexpensive. B, I think it's absolutely beautiful and interesting and different. So if you can put up with the watering, I think it's good. And I think the simplicity of the plants at the bottom is where things get really good with this planter. Nice, bold floral here, which I felt like we needed in this spot. I think it really brightens things up. I think the helichrysum, you can't really go wrong with it. So I am giving these plants A+. I think these are a total success. I wouldn't change a thing about these. I'm going to keep these willows in these planters for the winter, and I'm actually going to try to overwinter these outside so that I can actually use these in my holiday decorations, because I buy curly willow to put into pots. So I'm just going to leave the ones that are living in the pots. Hopefully it will overwinter. We'll see how that goes. Even if I lose them, I would buy them again because I think it's a really good look. I don't often have to try too hard to think about what I would change so that I'm not repeating myself next year. But this is a case where I would be, if I was prone to doing that, I would repeat this 100%. So what can I say about this container? I mean, it's amazing, right? First of all, the ticket here is that this is in a 3-foot cube planter. So you can do amazing things in big planters, which is why I like big pots. It was high time to return to a banana in this container. I did a banana 2 years ago and decided that it was so good we should do another one. So I actually bought a second banana, and this is that banana. So this was new this year, and it was, I don't know, it was actually bigger than the first one I bought. It was maybe, I don't know, 3 feet tall when I planted it, something like that. You can see it's doing phenomenally, obviously. So the other plants in here are, first of all, a couple of dahlias. This is Melody Doro. And the other dahlia in there, I think, is, well, it doesn't really matter because it hasn't really bloomed much for me. Melody Doro is a superior dahlia. It's the first time I've grown it. I would absolutely recommend it as a great one for a container, and I just wish I had had 2 of those in here. More of the mahogany sweet potato vine. It is a very good one. It seems to have been a little bit more restrained here than it was over in the garage planter, maybe because there wasn't as much room. This is guacamole bromeliad right here. Those are bromeliads that I brought home from Florida. There are actually 3 of them tucked in there, not that you can really see them, but I brought those home in a suitcase from Florida. I love that tucked into the corner. I'm big time on board with sticking bromeliads in there. This is Fiona Sunrise Jasmine. Now this was the 3rd one that I bought, and I envisioned it climbing up through the banana. And as you can see, it never did that. It didn't grow very well over here. Not nearly, it was smaller than the 2 that were in the window box to begin with. It didn't grow very well. However, it is beautiful coming out here in the front. So it is looking beautiful. Tropical Sunrise Super Bells. I have didn't plant a single, at least here at the house, didn't plant a single petunia this year. But I did kind of return to super bells, as you've noticed, and I've been very happy with how they performed. I think this is called firecracker plant. This was another plant that I brought home in a suitcase from Florida, and what a great plant. I actually didn't even need it to flower to be happy about it. I didn't actually anticipate it would flower. It has flowered all year, and it's been beautiful. Another sun patience here, and then we have some mahogany splendor hibiscus grown from seed, kind of growing up through the banana. And then you can't see it very much anymore because the dahlia's gotten so big. But over here we have sunshine ligustrum. If I were doing this again, I would have pulled that sunshine ligustrum up to this front corner because it's so beautiful and it's such a nice contrast of texture there. Not hardy here, but that's another plant that I'm gonna attempt. There's a lot of things going in the garage this year. We're gonna try to overwinter them. So one of the things that I did this year, partly because I really wanted to try it out again, was to put a lot of different plants into containers rather than keeping things simple. I feel like I need to do that every once in a while for my brain to remind myself that it doesn't really work that well. However, in this planter, I feel like it does work pretty well. I think the mahogany splendor hibiscus is kind of lost in there, so probably a waste. I think putting another dahlia on this side would have been better. I thought that picking up the purple of the banana in the sweet potato vine was a good idea, and maybe it was, but something just isn't quite working. I actually think had Fiona Sunrise done better in this container and pulled the chartreuse in more, this whole thing would have been a total success. As it is, I think it's pretty good, and I don't think you can ever go wrong with this banana. I'm gonna give this guy a B, although there's a lot of things that I'd be happy to do again. I mean, I love the firecracker plant vine. What are we called? Need to look up the name of this. I love the bromeliads in the front. They should have a little bit more room so you can see them better. I do like sun patience. Boy, are they easy. Nothing to be done with them really, and they do just keep blooming and blooming and blooming. So lots of good in here. If there is one eternal truth for me when it comes to containers, it's almost always that the more time I spend planning a container design, the worse it is. And I give you exhibit A of that. This is the large urn in the middle of the patio garden. And this was the planter that I started with when I was planning my planters this year. This is the one that I was most excited about, and this is the one I am most disappointed in. I think first of all, you can tell we are almost completely devoid of flowers at this point in the season. Which is obviously not great. Then let me just walk through the plants that we have in there first. So our feature plant here is Melianthus. I looked hard for this plant, and this is a perennial that is not hardy here. And when I bought it, it was pretty small, and I got it early in the season. I potted up, and I completely underestimated how long it takes for Melianthus to grow. I fully expected this plant to be 4 feet tall by the end of the season, and as you can see, it's not even close to that. Other plants that are in there are, there was, I think it was a cobalt superbena in the front, kind of pooped out pretty early. There was a violet night alyssum lobularia in the front, pooped out. Over here on the right side, that kind of feathery foliage is parrot's beak, which grew enormous and kind of ate a bunch of other stuff. Dichondra silver falls, which is neither here nor there. A random eucalyptus. There's some bromeliads in there, which you can barely see. Seems to be a theme with the bromeliads. Over here is a coleus that I actually put in because the other plant that I had in there with the purple foliage died. So what we had, and there's some interesting stuff on the back too, but it's basically repeats of what you see here. And basically this was supposed to be blue foliage with purple or blue accents. And it is such a nothing burger. I'm really, really, really disappointed in this planter. On top of that, you can see the Melianthus is wilted a little bit. And I have gone in there and watered it already today. I think there's just too many plants. Now it's end of season, so it's hard to keep up on the watering with it. I'm just so disappointed because I really expected that Milianthus to be this really stately, hello, Mr. Hummingbird. Good timing. Well, at least he's happy with the few flowers that are there. I'm really disappointed in well, everything about this. That eucalyptus never should have been in there. That was a bad move on my part. So the first planter and the planter that I spent the most time thinking about and planning for is by far the worst. So sadly, the urn gets a D. Oops. And now we are at the newest containers. First year for these. And this is, we're gonna take these all as one because this is sort of a container installation of 3 planters. 2 of these that are hanging baskets hanging from the tree, and then the bottom one is a fire planter, all of which were planted with the same plants and quite fully, as you can see, and in a very shady spot. And this has brightened up this area so nicely. So all of them have basically the same plants in them for the most part. So we've got bonfire begonias in there. No, Begonia boliviensis. This is the orange one hanging down. We've got Tradescantia, pistachio, a couple of bromeliads in there, another yellow begonia, some more orange begonias. There are some ferns, and the ferns are actually doing better in the hanging baskets than they are down here. They all have a few different kinds of ferns in them. This is actually like called autumn fuchsia. And I think it's basically grown for the foliage, and you can see why. This was a Tradescantia that I picked up at a nursery, and it didn't have a name on it, and I didn't actually realize it was a Tradescantia till I asked. There's a brake fern in the center here. What else do we have? More begonias. This is a blue, I think it's blue shag fern maybe. So I'm so happy that I planted these up with nice bright colors. What a nice thing it is, because here in the shade garden, let's be honest, it's mostly green. So it's so nice to have some really beautiful bright colors in here. We can see these from the house. I can't tell you how much I love these. So these get an A+, and I'm also giving these my favorites of the whole year. Of all the containers I did, I like these the best. I am so thrilled with how they look. I'm so thrilled with the concept of them as a trio. I hope every year with these planters is as successful as this inaugural year was, because I can't get over how much I like these, and it's a really special moment when you're walking through the garden. Best thing about containers is you get a new shot every year. So I love this process of going through and mentally working out what worked, what didn't, why it did, mostly why it worked or didn't, what I would repeat or what thing I would like to take elements from. It's just really nice to have a part of gardening that you get a fresh chance at every year. So I would love to hear what your container grade point average for this year was, and if you guys go through the same process I do of sort of making some notes about you know, what was good and maybe what wasn't so good. All right, have a great day in your garden. Thank you for watching. We'll see you soon.